Hello and welcome to People First by AllVoices. Your host, Jeffrey Fermin, and with me, very special guest, Maureen Wiley Clough. She runs one of the most interesting podcasts. It gets late early, right? So I'm like kind of buffering and stuff like that because I loved the couple of episodes I listened to, specifically the one with the advertising agency that has nothing but older creatives. Let me cut myself off there and let me work over to you. I'm like really excited and amped for
Oh,
this one. So let me hand it over and allow you to do a proper introduction.
you are
Here, I
super
yield my
kind.
floor.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening too. So my podcast is It Gets Late Early because that is exactly how I feel about life. I'm like, wait, hold on. What? How is this happening? How is time flying like this? And the genesis of the podcast really was this moment that happened to me when I was 36 years old. No, 37 years old at this startup. And my colleague, who was a friend of mine, turned to me and he called me a dino because I didn't know how to put a GIF on Slack. And I would thought it was hilarious, cracked up, and then I was like, wait a minute, I actually have thought about how people kind of age out of corporate. And I have it's been a passing thought and kind of let it go after that. But then I was like, wait a second, I'm one of the oldest people at this company who's not in a VP, senior director, C-suite level. How the heck can that be? There are only so many steps on that career ladder, and supply and demand. Come on, what is this? People are living longer and longer. How can this be a thing? And age is the one thing that is coming for all of us if we're lucky, right? It's the one thing that unites us. And in an era where we're talking about inclusion in the workplace, it struck me as insane that we didn't actually have age in there as a focal point in these programs. And so I thought, gosh, since I'm validating the fact that other people are like, yeah, this is a problem and no one's talking about it, why not start talking about it? And so that's what I did.
And one of the quotes that I remember from one of the episodes, I don't know if it was on your podcast or somewhere you were featured on, but you had said that ageism is the only ism that's going to get all of us eventually.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
why don't you
The
just speak a little
perverse
bit more on
beauty. Yeah, it's a perverse beauty that it does unite us across all generations and every other sort of marker of humanity. And it's something that we perpetuate, and I don't believe actually will ever go away entirely, because the nature of the way we go through this world is we know that there is an off-ramp. There's an exit point. At some point, we will no longer be on this planet. And when we see actual markers of age, it reminds us of our mortality, essentially. And so I think there's always going to be that sort of interest in youth, right? And it's something that we, unintentionally, and in some cases, I think overtly, put into the minds of people from pretty much the moment they're here, right? And harmful stereotypes are spouted off by kids as young as age 4. And I can tell you from my personal experience, my own kids are like, hey, Mom, you're old. It's like a sick burn of sorts. And I'm like, hey, where did you hear that being old or older is a bad thing? Where are we getting this? And it's everywhere in the media and all these different messages. And I've always been someone who enjoys the company of older people. I've always sought out their wisdom. I found them more interesting. And so it struck me as wild that we don't have a reverence or place value on experience that people gain only through time. So it's just something that I really felt passionately about changing or sparking a conversation about, because I don't want my kids to grow up in a world where they go on and they are devalued with every passing breath simply because they existed for a longer period of time. That just makes no sense. And it's a complete own goal on our part. And importantly, it also hurts companies that want to make more money. And that's the only way that this will change, is if you tell them where it's going to hit them, and it's going to hit them in the pocketbook. So, yeah.
Perfect. Oh my God. Last time we spoke, it was over the phone, and we were discussing just the societal component of it, of ageism, right? You go into a restaurant, you're already being prejudged, right? Anywhere you go, there's kind of this notion of people are looking at you and they're already instilling these biases, or they're instilling their own judgments toward you because you get there. Now, mention it right there. Let's talk about how this could affect people in the workplace, whether they are, uh, someone yeah, very much like you back in the day. No, right now I'm 36, going into 37, and I'm sort of feeling it. I'm getting a little scared, and I'm kind of like, oh my God, am I going to age out of tech? How does ageism affect just every individual in a workplace? And very broad question, I know, but
No,
I'll
it's
let
all
you dig
right.
into it.
I mean, the fact of the matter is it's systemic. It's baked into everything about work, right? And you think about even job descriptions that are meant to be marketing for the people who could potentially be candidates, right? And join your company. And you see words in there that is they're coded language for young. You see like, oh, we want a hungry ninja who wears 17 hats or whatever, or like has energy, or is a digital native, right? That's another big one. That means we want someone young. And sometimes they will actually literally use the word young. So it's right there. It will absolutely preclude a lot of people from going to apply to your company when you use that kind of language. And then it is perpetuated throughout the culture of an organization in the concept of having people who are a quote unquote culture fit, which I heard all the time in the tech industry, which really means another person just like us. And when you start out with companies that are people, who tend to be younger, what do you think that does? It like attracts like, and just by this sort of natural process, not maliciously, like you accidentally end up having a homogenous workforce. And I recently had the VP of talent acquisition from Greenhouse on the podcast, Ariana Moon, and she said something that was so spot on. She was like, there was one point when I realized that it was actually a problem that we had so many millennials in the workplace, because guess what? 10% of our team was going to be out on maternity or paternity leave for a specific period. And that's like a massive business problem. And it could have been solved by having more multi-generational representation in the workplace, right? And we aren't even touching the value of experience, the value of mentorship, which does go both ways, by the way, between the younger and the older person. But it's been fascinating to me to see that basically no one escapes this. And also, if there's intersectionality with another marginalized group, it's worse. And for women, for example, you really can't win. So you're either too young or too old. There's really sort of no prime time to be considered as a leader. And there was a study done that was referenced in a Harvard Business Review by Dr. Amy Deal, and she said that this basically was completely confirmed by the study of 913 leaders. They really didn't have a sweet spot for leadership. It was always the wrong time, like kind of like Goldilocks, like it's never the right temperature. You're just never the right age, right? So it's such a systemic issue, and it's very hardwired in our brains. The WHO did a study. 1 in 2 of us says that we have ageist views, and I think half those people are lying, because we're all just a little bit ageist from having all these messages delivered to us our entire lives. So tough stuff for sure.
I love the phrase intergenerational workplaces. A little bit of a mouthful, but
Yeah,
um,
it's a tough one.
but it really just like whenever I hear it, I just imagine like a fully cohesive, like just office with people from different backgrounds and people of different age groups kind of giving their experiences and like what's going on new, what worked in the past. What are the benefits of an intergenerational workplace? It doesn't kind of look as holistic as this kind of like vision that I'm having where it's like, oh my God, we're all holding hands and we're all kind of explaining how we can all be as like a business, but
I think one thing to point out is it's one thing to have a multi-generational workforce, right? Like if you have people from all generations, that's great. But the power of this is when you have an intergenerational workforce, meaning these people actually collaborate and work together and have some sort of relationship, right? And LinkedIn did a study, and they said something like 50% of people in Gen Z reported they hadn't spoken to someone over the age of 50 in like a year or something like that. I'm probably misquoting the statistic, but the point is people aren't talking to one another, and organizations aren't necessarily making it easier for people to connect. So this is something that's really crucial. You can't just simply have the people in place. You have to allow them to engage with one another and create spaces for them to do that. And some companies do it far better than others. Some actually focus on age in their inclusion practices. It's a slight number, but I do think it's getting better. I think this is an old statistic. 92% of people that are organizations that were polled by PwC actually had no age in their inclusion policy whatsoever. So it was only 8% of companies that actually focused in on this. And then from there, you can imagine fewer still actually had something in place that was going to help people facilitate those connections. But when you do that, you unlock so much richness. You unlock the ability for mentorship to really flourish and for people to make these really great friendships, frankly. Like I think of the way I was able to learn from my older peers at companies when I started out my career. And like, I don't think I would have been half the professional I ended up being without them. They were so instrumental in my growth, and they really did so much for me. And that's something that I know Gen Z is really hungry for, and frankly not getting nearly enough of in this extremely tough environment where everyone's just, job hugging, quote unquote, like this. Everybody's just like trying to keep their damn job, right? And so people
Yeah.
aren't focused on bringing people up and, connecting with others. And there's just so much lost there. But if you have that ability to pull people together, however you do it, whether it's an ERG, whether it's a legitimate mentorship program, or maybe it's even just bringing all those people of different generations together in a room during a meeting, which is very important, which is what my last episode was about. Um, there's so much to be gained, and experience matters. People can tell you what they've seen in the past. They can see around corners. They can see potential pitfalls before you go there. And it can really just save companies and people so much headache and unlock so much more innovation and potential. So it's been proven in study after study that diversity helps improve innovation and productivity, and age is another component to that.
Yeah, and the other thing worth noting too is right now there's a lot of like negative studies around mentorship. Well, not negative in the sense as like it's not really as active as it used to be.
Yeah.
I'm only citing this because I did a little bit of consulting work for this company called Mentorly. They were based out in
Oh,
Canada,
cool.
and they were trying to really kind of close that gap, right? Like, how do we get young talent mentorship, or even like mid management type of talent access to like mentors? So
Yeah,
they're
it's
still
important.
active, by the way. I strongly suggest checking them out.
I
That
will.
said, do you feel like do you feel like that's another benefit to all this, like in intergenerational workforce, like making sure that we have access to mentors? And I say we as a millennial person, maybe wanting to learn from a Gen X and
Yep.
a boomer or
Yeah.
whatnot.
Or from a Gen Z, which has happened to me. So I have a social media consultant that I've worked with. He's amazing. His name's Eric Cruz. And I jokingly refer to him as my therapist all the time because he basically is. And I learn so much from him. He is incredibly experienced in social media, obviously, in ways that I'm not. He is a complete expert. And yes, he's younger than I am. So, age doesn't necessarily equate to experience or, ability, right? But he has been so incredibly helpful to me. So I hope, has learned a few things from me too. But that's been a really, really awesome environment for me to learn. And so it does go throughout all the generations. But yeah, mentorship, I think, is something that I don't think I would have gotten half as far as I did without it. And it happened sometimes very deliberately and intentionally because I had a manager who was looking out for me and wanted that to be unlocked for me in the workplace. So kudos to him, Bob. You're the man. But like some places, it doesn't happen so easily. It's sometimes a very difficult thing to have surface because it's a very uncomfortable thing to be like, hey, can you be my mentor? And by the way, I would probably advise not saying it like that. But like, if you don't give people the chance to mingle with people of other generations, it's just not going to happen. And it's just such a loss. And it doesn't have to be this way.
Oh, great points, by the way.
Thanks. I
I
try.
yeah. No, you're doing
Doing my
fantastic.
best here.
No, no, you're doing great. So I was just thinking, you mentioned earlier, age being a part of inclusion, right? I've spoken to a lot of folks here, Greer Prosich of Rethinkability, Leah Sake, right? Like they're doing a lot of work for accessibility inclusion.
It's
And
awesome.
obviously, you've spoken to some other folks in the DEI space, Danny Rera. Strong's just checking out that episode. She's outstanding. Now, like, there's this other layer that I didn't think about. Like, could age eventually become a part of a DEI strategy, specifically for larger corporations to say, like, hey, our workforce might only have millennials and we're not getting like different perspectives. As a DEI consultant or an HR person, I should be investing more in having a diverse workforce in terms of age, right? Like,
A
do
hundred.
you see this kind of being a trend in the future, even in this
Oh
like
yeah.
AI era?
Absolutely. I think it's a necessity. I mean, right now our population is aging markedly. I mean, I think it's 1 in 5 people will be over the age of 65 by 2030. Like, I think 60% of the population is millennial and Gen X, something like that. It's just a massive part of the workforce, right? And so if companies are not intentionally courting and making available positions to people of all ages and increasingly older people, they're not going to be able to have the positions filled that they need filled. So they're going to be completely losing out if they don't incorporate age into their inclusion practices. It's something they need to be studying. And I see all the time on applications, people will have a hopefully hopefully it's an optional field, but sometimes it's actually required, where they ask age identification markers like when did you graduate, or no joke, I saw this literally a couple weeks ago, how old were you when you started coding, and how many years have you been coding? And I was like, oh my God, come on, people. Like, just could you make it a little less obvious? Although at least we know to avoid you, perhaps. But people want to know about age in these sort of demographic studies, but then they like don't have a they don't have a representation. Oh my God. They don't have a representative group of people across all ages at their company. And it's like, guys, what are you doing? What, like you're studying this, but you're doing nothing with it. Like you go to the careers page and it's all people under 40. You know that you don't feel like you're going to belong there. You're probably not going to apply. And you're probably going to be told you're not a quote unquote culture fit if you go through the process of interviewing, right? So companies have to wake up to this. The ones that haven't done so are already behind. That's my perspective.
All right, before I let you get out of here, because this is a very much a short podcast or short. Um, one very important question, perhaps the most important one out of this, and I want you to like just mentally prepare for this one. If you need to take a second, by all means.
Okay.
Turning 37 next year, am I going to be a dino in time?
That's amazing. Um, I certainly hope not in the eyes of most, but I will say it's coming. It's coming in hot. Like people, sadly, they will judge you on the basis of your age alone. It's going to happen. And like I said, like I'm ageist. I've had to unlearn intentionally not to be ageist, and I'm still working on it. Like I'm a woman. I've been told that I should drink from the fountain of youth and like buy anti-aging creams since forever, right? Like this is a thing. And so I have had to really have a reckoning and a come to Jesus or whatever about this. And it's hard. It is a very difficult thing to rewire your brain on that front. So some people will view you that way. I think that's ridiculous. Hopefully most people do too. But what I'll say about this is I wouldn't let it stand in your way, right? Because a lot of people I talk to are like, "Oh man, I can't get a job and it's ageism." And you know what? It probably is in part ageism. 100% want to go there and say, "Yes, I want to validate that." But if you go into every interaction and every interview with that at the forefront of your brain, that energy is not going to be good energy. It's not going to help you. And so I encourage people to, instead of thinking about it in that way, about how you're going to be judged, actually, know what's going to happen, but go forward with your best foot forward and, tell yourself that your age is an asset, not a liability, because it literally is, in the sense that you have so much more experience. You actually have that over younger people. I feel for them. It's so hard for young people right now. Oh my gosh, don't get me started on how awful it is. But you have that, and you also have gotten to know a ton of people over the course of your both professional life and your personal life. Hey, that's what we call a network. And how are you going to get a job most likely? Through that. So that's an asset. So kind of reframe it, kind of work on your mindset. All of that will help you show up as your best self and be more likely to get the job. And if you don't, because they're ageist, well, you probably wouldn't have liked working there anyway. And maybe you dodged a bullet. So, but yeah, you're not a dino in my book. And I think we have many great years ahead of us. Truly.
I believe so as well. I can't thank you enough for saying all that. And honestly, I think you crushed it. I know it sounds a little ridiculous to say you crushed this. Thank you so much for joining us. She is Maureen Wiley Clough. It gets late early. Listen to it on Spotify. Go for a walk. Throw it on there. We have a lot. Yeah, like she's great. Please go give her a
Thank
listen.
you.
And she's going to be speaking at a couple of conferences coming up.
Woohoo.
Um, Please, I strongly suggest if you are organizing a conference, whatever it is, HR Transform, all this stuff, please get Maureen on there.
Oh.
And I'm sure she's going to steal the show wherever she goes. You want to shoot your shot and say like, oh, my dream is to speak at this?
Well, very many places, I suppose. But yeah, apparently you have to put yourself out there quite some time ahead of the event. I've learned this the hard way, unfortunately. So now I'm trying to map out what I want to do. But yeah, and certainly if companies want to have a conversation about why age inclusion matters and how much money and productivity and innovation you're leaving off the table by not practicing it, call me up. I'm here. So. But yeah, thank you so much. This is so awesome to be here, and I love what you're doing, and can't wait to actually see you on the road soon, hopefully.
We'll definitely link up, and
Dinos. Woo! Team Dino. I dig it.
I'll get us some t-shirts and everything. And my boss Emily, she'll appreciate it too. So yeah,
Awesome.
we'll get some Dino shirts.
Love it.
All right, Maureen, thank you. And we'll put all of her information on the YouTube description as well as on Spotify. So yeah, give her a follow. Thank you so much for
Thank
your time.
you. Thank you, Jeffrey.